Welcome back to the project for the Suzuki Hayabussa Gen 1. Not sure if it's same in the Gen 2. Never been this far into a Gen 2. So, story so far, ghost gears, fifth. Probably just only in fifth really, but I replaced all the gears inside. They were a little bit marked on the dogs where they meshed together. Two of the selectors had smiley faces. Not really that bad, but they had them, so they got replaced. Put it all back together, went out for a run, still ghost gear in fifth, and sometimes in sixth, and that was with brand new gears and brand new selectors. So I read online, and as most people will have read online, this little thing here, Evo Star Shifter from America. Quite expensive for what they are, really. You get a detent spring here, which is meant to be a little bit stronger, slightly lower profile on the Star Shifter, so it just makes it easier for it to roll over and into gear. That is not the problem. The problem, I'm going to reveal it in a minute, is, well, I think this is the problem. I've spotted something else that it might well be as well. So I'm going to try and explain how this little beauty works. So obviously your gear stick, as they call it, gear lever, goes on here with a pinch bolt, goes through that casing there, and it sits in that hole there. That's got needle rollers in it. So in effect, that's how it sits there. There's no videos, there's no tutorials, there's not one single person ever addressed this on the internet and never ever explained how it works. So we're going to attempt it here. You can see now that cloaks those pegs. So it's quite difficult to do. When that gear selector is moved, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do this. So wait a minute. A little bit of fiddling. See if I can get it set up in the right position. Right there. Give that a bit of a tweak because there's no cog on it at the moment. So you can see what it's wanting to do. It's wanting to, that's a downward shift. Go for upward shift. You can see what it's wanting to do. That little claw behind there shoves them pegs up. I'm going to take this back off again now, and I'm going to show you what actually happens, or what's meant to happen. So basically, that claw there turns up, turns up, turns up for upward shifting, turns down, turns down, turns down for downward shifting. If you have a look on there, there's not really that much of a witness mark on there to say that anything has gone wrong with that. And I've spoken to the main agents local to where I live, and they've never ever sold one of these shafts ever. So it can't be that. If you come across here now and have a look at the gear plate, look at that. See what it focuses? Witness marks. So what I'm going to attempt to do now, I'm going to turn this there. So as them pegs come round, these chamfered areas here, the peg rolls over that chamfered area, pushing this out this way. When it gets in between those two bits there, it snaps back into place. So it's out, rolls it round, snaps it into place, and they hold it into gear. So these two, that one there and that one there, which is opposite to the shifting, that's getting shifted, or that one's getting shifted down. It holds between these two pegs here, stops it from jumping out of gear. Now if you don't get a full shift, it's going to be sat right where that witness mark is there. So something, and I've got to work out what it is, something is not allowing that to get a full shift. and it's not allowing that to snap into place to hold it into gear. So it'll be in effect, it'll be sat like this, allowing this to freely rotate. I can rotate that with my hand, you see. I can rotate that in any gear. If that's not holding them pegs in, then it's just going to jump out of gear or not engage properly. It's very easy. There's no resistance there whatsoever. That detent spring, you can put the strongest spring in the world, but it's never ever going to hold that into gear, ever. The only thing that's going to hold that into gear is that plate there. So now I've got to work out why that is not holding into gear. Why? That's obviously going into gear. It's right, mate. So get to neutral there. That's neutral. So down is first. Start again. So that's first. Second. Obviously I'd have to just rotate it a little bit. Little bastard's proving me wrong, innit? I'm not strong enough just to do that. But yeah, something is not allowing that to have a full shift. So now I'm thinking, is there any play on the shaft? I mean, that's you can see that there's a little bit of elongation on that seal. Now, is that going to tell me there's a needle roller in there? You better see that. Is that telling me that there's play on that needle roller, which would allow that shaft just to move up and down when you're trying to shift it? And if that's, it doesn't need a lot. If that's allowing that just to move ever so slightly, it's enough for it to just sit on the edge of one of them pegs and not to fully locate. And it could well be that. And especially if you're thinking, I'm not hitting it hard enough, and so you start hitting the gear lever a bit harder just to force it into gear, over time that's just going to elongate and make the matter worse. I'm not particularly sure whether that one will be elongated. I haven't checked it yet, but there's such a long travel on that shaft there. I'm thinking maybe that little needle roller and that little oil seal might just be the culprit. Clearly it's going to need a new plate. It's going to need one of them. That's a better shot of it, that, actually. You see where it's being sat on the edge of it, not fully engaging. Them pegs are meant to be sat in between them gaps there, holds it into gear. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Hayabussa problem all along. Nobody will tell you. You can't find anything on the internet. Hopefully somebody will be able to pick this up and learn from it and think, yeah, that's what's happening to mine. I'll sort it out. In fact, I'm going to replace that. There's nothing I can do with that. It's knackered. I can put a blob of weld on it and grind it down, but it won't work. If the weld breaks off, it could cause disasters. So I'm going to get a new plate. They're only about £40 local. I'm going to get a new bearing for this end. There's some witness marks on that, actually. Is there? Or is that how it's meant to be? I'll have to have a closer look at that. Yeah, I'm going to get a new bearing for in there. New seal. New plate for there. If it costs 100 quid, it was a very cheap fix. Happy Hayabussa ownership. I hope it helps somebody. Saves you spending £1,000 in the gearbox. If this doesn't work, the only other thing I can do is to pull the selector drum out, which we did inspect the selector drum when we had the gearbox in bits, and there was nothing in there, no witness marks, nothing untoward, everything was all clean. Behind this plate here, wait a minute, you unscrew that, unscrew that. It's not advisable to just do this. You've got to learn how to do it. Really, the engine needs to come out and to be turned upside down. You can end up with all sorts of problems. So if this doesn't work, to drop the engine out, drain oil, obviously, everything. Turn the engine upside down, remove them 2 screws, and behind there's 2 shafts, and those shafts carry all your selectors inside. I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's the top one that gets bent, and because the selectors are in the middle, and any hard shifting can just put a very slight bend in that shaft. If that shaft's bent, then the selector can't run across truly, and it won't select the gears properly. You can get an upgraded solid shaft, they're hollow. So that'll be the next thing if this doesn't work, but I'm thinking that this is going to work. I think this will sort it out. I'll do another video in a bit. Bye for now.